been there. When you pull yourself out enough of the muck,
Yep.
there's a point where you go, God, this sucks for anybody who's in it, and I understand it. So I
Mhm.
want to make sure everybody can find somebody, because we all need somebody. We all need
Yep.
somebody who can believe in us and support us and listen to us and validate and give us a space where we're not judged, so that we can be reflected to in a way where we can move in a different direction in our life. And we don't, and if someone doesn't have that, I mean, we're really at the whims of our own, sometimes crazy mind that spins us in a direction that
Sure.
we
Sure.
can start believing things before we even realize we're hooked in 100 thoughts we've had in the last 20 minutes that
Right.
take us in a whole different direction.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be audacious. Be audacious.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to help you live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Today, we're diving deep into the library of life, exploring the chapters that shape our experiences and influence our journeys. Each episode is like a book on the shelf, filled with insights, stories, and lessons designed to help you embrace the audacity within you. Now, think of your life as a vast library. Within these walls, you'll find volumes on vulnerability, teaching us that embracing our true selves is essential for building genuine connections. You'll discover the importance of support, reminding us that during the toughest times, we all need someone to believe in us. You'll also encounter the value of authenticity, because living our true selves fosters trust and deepens relationships. And as we continue and we stroll through this library, don't overlook the sections on emotional integration, learning to feel and process our emotions for healing, and then subconscious awareness, where recognizing and addressing limiting beliefs leads to profound growth. Today, we have a very special guest, Donnie Summers. He's a passionate life coach and mental health advocate with a powerful story of resilience. Donnie helps others navigate their healing journeys and unlock their fullest potential. His insights on vulnerability, authenticity, emotional intelligence make him really the perfect guest for today's conversation. And so, without any further ado, we got the table set. Let's dive into our conversation with Donnie. Enjoy. Hey, Donnie, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Hey,
Let's do it.
listen, for me, the opportunity to engage in dialogue is always just really thrilling, exciting, and the idea, even if you think about it, listeners have an opportunity to eavesdrop in our conversation and take something that can help them put them in a better trajectory is just an exciting thing to be a part of. So no, that's why I do these things. I think they're fantastic, and so I guess I should also thank you for helping me sort of fulfill my own personal mission.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, this is mine too. So anywhere we can each be a voice and get out there to the
Sure,
people that help them
sure.
out, definitely.
So as a starting point, because I mean, the big thing to understand is, we all on our own individual journeys and pathways, and those pathways and those journeys are gonna have their own unique set of obstacles and challenges, and also rewards too, right? And they're all unique to us and what the journey that we've got to take for us individually. And so maybe as a starting point, if I can get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about your journey and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Oh man, that's a big question. Well, so actually around 2009, 2010, I was in a really tough place. I was diagnosed as severely mentally ill. I was depressed. I was angry. I was extremely unhealthy.
Mhm.
A lot of suicidal ideation. I just was checked out of life in a lot of big ways. And I knew that I needed help. And actually, the thing that really got me going was a friend of mine, which was really the story that changed my whole life, was a really good friend of mine. His name was Luke. Always a happy guy, always smiling, always positive. He called me one day. Usually I was the one who reached out to him, but when I did, he would always reach back within a couple of minutes with text
Right.
or a call, and this was
Mhm.
really steady for him. And one day Called, I didn't answer. I was in a really depressed mood. He called me again a few days later. I didn't answer. Next week happened the same thing. He called me several times, which is unlike him. I didn't answer. And when I started coming out of my funk a little bit, I just decided I should really call him because I've been ghosting him a little bit, and called him back and no answer. Tried him again a few days later, no answer. That happened for about a week and a half, and was really odd that he didn't reply. So then I tried again. His phone was disconnected, and I thought, well, that's really strange. What's going on with him? I called his wife, said, hey, what's going on with Luke? Haven't heard from him. And she said he took his life. And I was like, what? It took me back because he was such a happy guy. And I said, I don't understand. He's such a happy guy. And she said, no, that's just what he showed the world. He wasn't happy at all. He was really depressed. He had bipolar. He just a lot of stuff going on. And yet you never would have guessed it from the guy ever.
Right.
And I was a really close friend. And that really shook me because I got to see what it was like on being on the other side of somebody, what it does to the family, what it does to everybody around, the friends.
Yeah.
And that was a real big wake up call for me because here I was in a place where I was planning how I was going to escape myself. And it forever changed me, where I thought maybe he was calling me to reach out to me to get support. And because of my own stuckness where I was at, maybe I could have helped save a friend's life. Because I really think since that was out of character for him to call me so often, so much,
Right.
so soon, it completely it just grabbed me and shook me. And that's when I decided I can't do this. I need to turn my life around. And that's when I did, through a lot of various methods that really brought me back to life. And that's where my path started, to be honest with you.
I mean, it sounds like it was a cry for help from him as he calling and reaching out to the way he did, and
Yeah.
so to know that you weren't able to answer that call in a manner that could support him, I can see where that can really be impactful.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It completely changed me, man. I never wanted to be in a space like that where a loved one, um, couldn't reach me because of my own state. And we
Right.
all have good and bad days, right? So, I mean, it was something where I decided, regardless of whatever day I'm having, if someone's calling me, I never know if that's the last time I'm going to hear from them. It really helped me see that life is not guaranteed the next day for anybody. And so that changed that. And that turned into eventually a path where I started doing the work I do with clients today, because it turned into more than just, close friends and family. It turned into, I really want to help anybody who's hurting, because I've been there. When you pull yourself out enough of the muck,
Yep.
there's a point where you go, God, this sucks for anybody who's in it. And I understand it. So I
Mhm.
want to make sure everybody can find somebody, because we all need somebody. We all need
Yep.
somebody who can believe in us and support us and listen to us and validate and give us a space where we're not judged, so that we can be reflected to in a way where we can move in a different direction in our life. And we don't, and if someone doesn't have that, I mean, we're really at the whims of our own, sometimes crazy mind that spins us in a direction that
Sure.
we can start believing things before we even realize we're hooked in 100 thoughts we've had in the last 20 minutes that
Right.
take us in a whole different direction,
Yeah. Down that
you
rabbit
know?
hole. That rabbit hole of emotions and thoughts and
Yeah,
feelings. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. No, for
100%.
sure. So let's talk about the work this led you to. What do you now do with clients, and how do you support them?
I do a lot of things, man. I've been certified in, I don't know, I think 12 to 14 different modalities,
Well,
and a lot of them deal with subconscious repatterning, trauma, mindfulness,
mhm,
emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, honesty and authenticity, which something that I do. And again, I work with both men and women. However, I really started becoming interested in polarity between masculine and feminine, how those play roles in both men and women's lives,
okay.
and how we each, as a man, going from, masculine and feminine polarities within ourselves, and same with women. And so after doing work for many years with a lot of different modalities, and man, I've done it all. And if you looked at my profile, you probably saw things like I've done everything from work from the Amazon, doing all the, plant medicines, ayahuasca, all the things you can do in that realm. I've done from that to neuroscience and all the latest, greatest modalities that deal with, changing the brain
Yeah.
and rewiring ourselves. And I found eventually where I had all these modalities, all this wisdom, all of this healing and purging of old things in my life. And there was something that felt like it was still missing. Like, what was it? What was the thing that really was keeping me feeling stuck? And what I found that it was when I started to hear, and it's not just for men, but it's called, I don't know if you ever heard of No More Mr. Nice Guy or Dr. Glover or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
when I started hearing about what they call, isn't a medical diagnosis, but it's called nice guy syndrome. And nice guy syndrome, and there's nice gal syndrome too. Basically, it's people that haven't learned how to take off the mask, so they're not living an authentic life. They're doing things like people pleasing, kind of like chameleon work, where they're learning how to
Yes.
adapt to others, not speaking their truth, not really being radical, and just saying it how it is, having the courage to be disliked in certain situations or all situations potentially if they need to be. And that's when I started learning a lot more about patterns about myself, which led me to a whole different rabbit hole of healing, which was learning how to be authentic and honest, whether I'm liked or not, how to stop people pleasing, and so many different things that taught me a lot about my personality, where I had to learn how to pull back and step into my own healthy masculinity to change who I was being for others and learn how to be myself. And all the different waves in the roller coaster went going down that route. And that feels to me like it really helped pulled me personally in my own life into a whole different way of living, which I'm still learning day by day. It's still a different thing every day that's showing me something that maybe I didn't see the day before, you
Nice,
know?
nice. It's interesting when you talk, it's like look, as you start talking about those patterns and the repetitive patterns that you saw. I'm wondering, my thinking sort of went to how others, there are lots of people who are struggling, um, or feeling stuck, rather. I mean, stuck is a good word, feeling stuck because of
Yeah.
in this emotional pain, and they just get caught in this cycle and or continuous, and to get out of that is tough because they're in these patterns. Do you think that's common, like in terms of what you're seeing from your clients and what you're hearing from people being stuck in that pattern? Do you think that's kind of the number one issue why people don't get out of emotional pain or struggle to get through it?
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I think there are several things that create this. And we've obviously created an identity, and a lot of this gets created when we're really young. So we learn what gets rewarded and what gets punished. And those become solid beliefs in us. And those create values, what we're going to value the most. Because really the truth is everybody's doing the same thing. We're looking to do the things that make us feel good and avoid the things that make us feel bad.
Right.
And so that creates values in our system. So if I ask somebody to write a list, and if I said, write down your 10 or 15 things that you value the most, and when it comes to family, love, money, safety, adventure, like whatever it may be,
Hmm.
I can watch and predict how people are going to act based off of what they've written down on those values lists. So if somebody said, oh, it's family, security, safety, and comfort,
Okay.
right? I can tell you right away that if that person says to me, I hate my job, I can't stand it, I'm miserable, it's XYZ, all the things, right? That's the person who's going to struggle the most to quit their job. Why? Because it takes away security, it takes away comfort.
Right.
And that's what they want the most. And so quitting a job and doing something like starting their own business or going to a different employer is going to be difficult for that person, because that's going to create what? The unknown. The unknown's uncomfortable. The unknown is not secure. So based off of what we value the most is going to be our weaknesses, right? And so I work with people to see what their values are, what they're valuing in their life the most, because that's going to tell me their radar of how they're going to respond to whatever problems they have going on in the world. And the second thing that I see that's really common is, can I tell you a quick little story?
Sure. By all means.
So, I heard this story once, not true, obviously, but it's about a man who goes to a monk and he says, "Can you teach me how to be successful?" And the monk says, "Yeah, meet me tomorrow at the beach and I'll teach you how to be successful." So the next morning they meet and the monk says, "We need to go out into the water a little bit so I can show you." So they go into the water and then the man says, "Okay, how do I be successful?" And the monk grabs him, throws him underwater, and holds him there until he's just about to take that breath and drown, where he can't breathe anymore. And then he pulls him up. And as soon as he pulls him up, the man says, "Are you successful?" The monk says, "Are you successful yet?" The man's obviously really upset. "How is this going to help me be successful? Why'd you do that?" And he throws him underwater again. He keeps doing this over and over, basically, until finally the man's about ready to walk away, pushes the monk off, and he goes, "That's it. I don't see how this is going to teach me how to be successful." And the monk says, "To be successful, whatever it is you want, you have to want as much as you wanted breath when I was holding you underwater." And that story, for whatever reason, impacted me in such a huge way. And it
Right.
started to be, it's something I still use in my day to day, not just to ask myself if I want to be successful in something, but if I'm wanting something, I actually am honest with myself to say sometimes, do I want this as much as I want breath right now?
Right. How badly do you want it?
And there's a lot of clients that come and see me. I catch myself doing it. I see close loved ones in my life doing it, where they will say, "I want to get up, do yoga, eat microgreens, avoid this, be on my phone less, do this, do that." And there's this huge list when I really talk to people to find out what's causing them stress and anxiety. We live in a society that is fast paced, that is pushed to where we feel like we have to be these super achievers in all these ways of in our lives. We watch people on social media who are, like if you want to do yoga, you see the guy who's in super shape or the girl in super shape doing yoga every day, 3 hours a day. And we tell ourselves we have to want these things. I want to work out. I want to XYZ. And what happens is it creates this really long, unrealistic list in people's minds.
Right.
And often, once I get the list of all the things people say that they want to do, have to do, should do, I actually start asking them, "Do you want this more than breath?" And I share that little story with people. And then I'll ask them, "Do you want this more than breath?"
Yeah.
Because if they say, "I want to work out," and they're not working out every day, I actually ask them that. And when I get people that are really honest and they say, "No, I don't want it more than breath," then I say, "Take it off the list for now.
Yeah.
Take off all the things on the list that you don't actually say I really want." Because another way I put it is, if you're sitting at a dinner table and you say, I'm done eating," but you keep eating, keep putting portions on your plate and say, "No, I'm
Right.
really done. I'm done doing this now." And you keep eating the food. Well, it's obviously you're not done, because a person who's done, what do? They push away from the table, they get
Stop.
their plate, they go wash it and put it away. So they're not really done.
Right.
So when also people tell me things like, "I'm done with this, I'm done doing that," and they keep doing it, they're not really done.
Not
So
ready.
be honest about it. Be
Yeah.
honest that you're not done. Be honest that you don't want it more than breath, because those are the things that are going to create so much less stress in your life, is
That's
to
right.
be honest with yourself. And that starts with actually being honest. And a lot of people, they find that difficult because they think if they're honest with themselves, then, "Oh, I don't really want to work out. I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to stop doing that," that means they're bad. Then shame comes in,
Right.
right? Like there's so many things tied in within what people are doing that we don't recognize, and they think it's what the cure is. It's going to be when I finally do that thing, when I finally fix this, when I finally work out, when I finally lose the weight, when I XYZ. There's all these stories, but really the key to that prison they put themselves in is actually just being honest and saying, "I don't want this. I don't want to do it. I like being lazy. I want to
Yes.
watch Netflix."
Right. Right.
When they think, but Netflix is a thing that's creating my life where I'm not getting anything done. No, it's the pressure that you're telling yourself that all of these things that need to be done. It's not
Yeah.
Netflix in itself. That's neutral.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nothing, you know?
What was really interesting is one of the things that I knew I wanted to conversate with you about is the lies that we tell ourselves, right? And the process that we've got to go through and I think you referenced unlearning the lies, right? And so it's being able to let that go. So as you're talking about these lies that we say, like, so yes, I want this success, but you really don't want, that feeds into sort of, the negative patterns, and it just sort of continues and continues and continues. Um, I'm wondering, just out of curiosity, are there any sort of common and limiting beliefs that you may possibly can share that you encounter, and and how people can start to unlearn these things?
Yeah, there. I mean, I think it's the core ones that I think every human who's honest can relate to is I don't deserve. I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
I can't do this. I don't know how. I hear what that's also the one I just named is I don't know. I don't know is one of the biggest limiting beliefs that people tell themselves. And yet I've watched over and over, and sometimes it can be with a simple question, and this doesn't work with everybody, but sometimes I might say, if you couldn't say I don't know right now to
Right.
this, what would you say? First thing, come to mind, what would you say? And some people then just say it and they're shocked by their own answers. But the thing is that underneath there's a part of us that does know. There's a part of us that can look at things and say, this whole thing is BS.
Right.
All of these things that I do every day, I don't want to do. I don't want to get up and work 40 hours a week. I want to dream. I want to travel. I want to this. I want to that. There's like something in us that tells us what we actually want to do, but we tell ourselves that we can't do. And I think that's where people get stuck. And not just that lie, but the lie of I don't deserve or I'm not good enough or I
Right.
can't do it.
Hmm.
And that's it's just not true. It feels true. It really feels true. And
Yeah.
even I can
Well,
wake up. Oh, go ahead. Were you about to say
no,
something?
I was gonna say, because but some of these lies, um, they're sort of meant to make us small, or make us believe that we can't achieve the big things that are out there for us. And so it's easy to tell those stories, because maybe this is where fear comes in, right? Like, I'm afraid to try, and so instead of trying something I'm fearful of, I'll support this fear by, with this lie that I've told myself, and embrace that, and that becomes my reality. And so I just sort of, as I think about like how you overcome that, it really does go back to a point that you made earlier, is really being honest with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. People often don't give themselves permission to feel what they're, excuse me, to feel what they're feeling.
Right.
And something that I've seen through somatic integration therapy is when somebody is feeling a state, right? So let's say it's depression. There's actually really interesting and really cool ways. They fascinate me to watch this happen. However, I remember when I was being trained in certain modalities, often when you're being trained in modality, you have to go through and practice the very things you're doing with clients, right? So I can remember a time when I was feeling depressed in my training group. And when I was working with another practitioner who was learning as well,
Hmm.
we did an exercise where we actually let our body follow what depression feels like. So you start investigating, like tracking your body sensations. And one of the first things we tracked was what my body wants to do. And the first thing I wanted to do was just put my head down. It just felt heavy, depressed.
Yeah.
So I let that happen. And then we kept following and tracking what my body wanted to do until slowly, more and more, I was slunching down, sinking in. And eventually I ended up laying down in this little area and I was curled up in a ball.
Yeah.
And then that led to an ugly cry. I mean, an ugly cry. And after that completed, my body was like, all right, we got to do that. And I could feel myself then wanting to sit up. And I sat up so straight after that. And it was so interesting to integrate depression, because
Right.
often when we say the word or the feeling, we think, one, I shouldn't feel this way. I should feel better. I'm just being a victim right now, or that wasn't such a big deal. And we don't really honor how we feel. And when we don't do that, it stays stuck in our body. It just sits
Yes.
there. Our body screams at us, I want to feel this. I want to let it
Yes.
go. And when we don't, it just builds and builds and builds. And
Yeah.
before you know it, we're like, my life is terrible and I don't know what to do about anything. So I think a lot of people don't feel like it's okay to actually just feel how they're feeling. And because they think they're going to be stuck. And so if I said this to some people, they might say, well, okay, fine. I'm going to go let myself be depressed and watch Netflix every day. And I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be depressed. That's not necessarily the answer either, because it's not true integration.
Right.
Just distracting without actually feeling is not integration. Well, I let myself do nothing for a week and be depressed and eat chips and chocolate all day. Like, no, that's not integration.
Right.
you know, good effort on your part, you know. However, like there needs to be integration. So people also need to learn how to feel and sit with things and really track things of what's happening in their body so that they can release, so that they can integrate. Because somatically, our unconscious mind, which is our body, it stays
Yep.
there,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
I'm really glad that you talked about the body as part of the healing process, because it definitely, there is a key role to us feeling better, getting better. And I mean, I'm not sure how many recognize or understand that, but the body does, it does. I mean, I think I heard a story, expression of the body keeps count, right? It keeps count of what goes on because everything is stored inside of us. I wonder if
100%.
you sort of just go a bit further, elaborate further on that, because I think people need to understand how significant the body is in the healing process.
Yeah, it is. And a thing that there's actually a great book. It's by Bessel van der Kolk. Van der Kolk, if I'm saying that right. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's an amazing book about how I mean, think of it like a computer chip. Our body is like a computer chip and it stores everything. And so what happens is language can absolutely move your life in a different direction. And
Sure.
I want to give an example of that and tie this into the body. So the way we ask questions accesses different parts of our mind. So if I had something happen to me, and I've noticed it happens before, and I say to myself, why does this always happen to me? Why is this my luck? Why does this keep happening? The portion of my brain that I'm asking is a portion that's related to the subconscious mind,
Okay.
memory. And so what the how the mind will answer me is it will go down into the basement and it'll look through all the files and see, why does this happen? Oh, it's because mom and dad said I always sucked at this. My friends told me I'm not good at that. And so this is why I'm not good at this. And then that's what makes us go, oh, what's the point? Why don't I give up? Versus accessing the logical problem solving portion of our brain to ask questions in a different way. Okay, this just happened. How can I do this a different way? How can I feel a different way? What steps do I need to take to do this and enjoy the process? When you ask how questions and what questions,
Yep.
it actually activates the problem solving portion of our mind, right?
Hmm.
So often people aren't asking questions in the right way that's going to get them information that's problem solving and logical that can help take them into a different direction. So they end up staying in this zone of living. I feel this, why? And then that doesn't give them the answers they need, the information they need to move forward in a productive way. So
Right.
since we're feeling most of these things in our body, we can have the thought, and I've said this to people. Have you ever noticed for yourself where there's something like your body feels like a nuke's going off in it? It feels all this emotion, and you're like, geez, like, what do I do with this?
Right.
And yet in your mind, you logically know, like maybe you're scared about a situation. I'm going to go do this interview
Yep.
tomorrow or XYZ.
Yep.
And you're like, I've done this 1,000 times. Why am I, what's the nervousness for? But yet your body feels it. And your
Yep.
mind is going, this isn't logical. I know I'm fine. I know I'm safe. I know how to do this. So this is where we start to learn to reparent ourselves. And I know this is such a big thing, doing inner child work and reparenting ourselves. And this is where really showing up in a way,
Hmm.
not fixing, not saying, how do I make this go away, but how do I accept that this is a part of me, that we're all on this bus together, like a committee that lives inside my head. We're all on the same bus. This part wants to drive right now. How do I come up to this part and say, look, I'm driving the bus. You can be on the bus. Let's have a conversation, but get in the seat behind me.
Right.
And it's learning how to do that and learning how to actually accept that part of ourselves. And some of it feels fake at first.
Mm.
It does, where
Yep.
you can recognize a part where when you start asking the right questions and recognize, I felt this way since as long as I can remember, or this started around the age of 10, or whatever it is, when you start learning how to explore yourself more,
Mhm.
to start actually just sitting with that part and asking the questions. Well, what's making me feel this way? Where does this come from? When's the first time I remember this happening? Or
Yes.
noticing where that sensation is in our body and noticing, oh, I feel this in my chest. And maybe just being able to sit with that and go, okay, I noticed that. I noticed this uncomfortable feeling in my chest. That's okay. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. It's okay. You're here. It's okay. You're feeling like this. And it may seem strange to people at first. And some days you do it and you can really recognize a somatic response, a reply inside that feels like, sometimes it's just slight, this little in your breath, but you still feel it. But then it's
Yes.
changed just from that one breath. And other times you see you're doing this work and you feel like, oh, this isn't getting me anywhere. And then instead of being like, oh, there's a thought, I just believe it because it came, of going, oh, there's another part right there. There's another part right there. Where do I feel that? What's the
Right.
voice of that part? What questions can I ask that part instead of just noticing the frustration behind it or the I'm not going to get myself anywhere? It's so subtle. And but it takes practice and it doesn't you can do it in your car. You don't have to
Right.
stop and like put your fingers together and be like, okay, I'll shut off. I'm going to just breathe and do this 15 minutes a day every day because that's another place where people get trapped. I have to meditate this amount of
Right.
time, this
Right.
many
Right.
times a day instead of I can do this when I'm driving. I can do this when I'm talking on the phone right now to a friend as I notice, oh, I'm feeling this right now and still
It's
talk to my
easy.
friend on the phone
Yeah.
as I'm doing this self work with myself.
Right.
It doesn't take this like Buddha like I don't know what people think. Put on your sarong and your special beads and then do this. Like it doesn't have to be like that.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, it can be while you're in the grocery store line getting your groceries and you're just like, oh man, I feel all this going on.
I don't gotta burn incense to make it happen. No, to set the no.
No, no, and that's what people. That's the idea we get in our head, and then when we're not doing it, then people are like, I'm really, I don't have my stuff together. I'm
Right.
just XYZ. There's another thing that goes on the list of what I have to do and whip myself to get this done, and now I feel like a failure, and now my life's falling apart, and then they end up depressed and watching Netflix all day. You
Right.
can do it while you're watching Netflix.
Sure. It can happen anytime, anywhere.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
As you were talking about sort of recognizing what's happening in our bodies, it sort of led me to really think along how that's one of the ways that we can reclaim our personal power. Right? It's really easy when things are going on and we think we're powerless and we've got nothing. There's nothing we can do about the situation. But I think that recognition that you discussed and spoke to is one of the ways to recognize our personal power. The other way, I reference, see what you also referenced, is you talked about emphasizing the importance of vulnerability and what that does in terms of what it allows us to do from a strength standpoint. Because oftentimes, vulnerability is seen as a sign of weakness, and if you expose a part of yourself, then you're considered weak. But it actually, is a sign of strength. And so I wonder if you sort of touch on just all the significance of vulnerability.
Oh man, I love this. This is right up my alley. So vulnerability is key to strength. That is the very thing that is strength. And a lot of people think it's not. And I want to give a personal example from my own life.
Okay.
So I'm married and I am who I am. It's hard for me to hide in a world where I if something doesn't work for me, I typically state it. Don't stay in that situation, move away from it as I can. And when I first met my wife, she was somebody who wasn't uh, she was used to machismo men, right? Like, I don't feel I'm a man, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so I would openly share my experience because she's very intuitive and could read me like a book. And she would notice the slightest changes in what I was going through. And I would just tell her, yeah, I feel like I'm having a difficult moment or a difficult day or a difficult afternoon or whatever it was. And I would be real. And if I needed to cry, I'd cry. And that was very strange for her at first. And
Right.
I remember when we first started dating, one of the things she told me one night was, I really need a man with strength. And this seems unstable to me where you just will share these emotions and say you're going through this because she wasn't used to. And I recognized that. And so right away, I told her, I said, you know what? I'm not going to change who I am. This is strength, what I'm showing you. You're just not used to seeing what real strength looks like.
Mm.
So that's it. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. And over time, she started recognizing how that was strength. She started opening up herself, sharing her own emotions, having her own vulnerabilities where she could cry, where she didn't have that space given to her before. And that's
Mm.
because I stayed true to who I was. When I need to cry, I cry. When I need to share my feelings, I share them. And instead of holding those back. And now I know there's other people that if they were caught in that same moment with somebody, especially somebody new they're dating, they don't want to come off as weak or they don't want to lose this person, that they would then conform. Oh, let me shut those down. No, I'm fine. And then that turns into just stuffing and stuffing and stuffing
Right,
and
right.
stuffing. Guarantee you down the road, that relationship, it's going to break apart. At some point, it's going to break apart. So this is where vulnerability is so important, to be who you are, to be how you feel, and show that to the world. Because the truth is, if you were in a room full of 100 people
Hmm.
and you were at your best self, you were funny, you were charming, you were witty, out of those 100 people you were in that room with, some people would love you. Some people wouldn't remember you 2 days after they met you. Some people wouldn't like you just because maybe unconsciously you remind them of their aunt or uncle they didn't
Yep,
like as a kid or something,
yep,
right?
yep,
So even if at your best, you're not going to make everybody happy.
yep.
So this is why it's so important to be yourself, because there's a saying that I say in my own life. I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. And sometimes people, I hear them say things like, I just want everybody to like me. And I want to be honest and say, no, you don't. You don't want everybody to like you, because I guarantee there's some people that would like you that would annoy you.
Sure, sure.
They'd come to your door unannounced every day and knock on your door and want to be with you every minute. And you'd be like, oh, this is annoying. No, you don't want everybody to like you.
No,
You
no.
want the right people to like you. And
Yeah,
to get the
yeah.
right people to like you, you have to be real. And you have to go through an uncomfortable phase in vulnerability, authenticity, and honesty, where it's having the courage to be disliked at first.
Sure.
Because what's
Yep.
going to happen is you're going to push away all the people that don't work for you and you'll draw the people in that do.
Yes.
That's just the way it works.
Yes, yes, yeah. I personally would much rather everyone to respect me. Whether you like me or not is not my high on my list. If you respect me, because at least that establishes a mutual understanding of what our relationship will look like and be moving forward. Can it grow into something else? Perhaps, but I think respect for me. But yeah, I got no time to be liked by everybody. There's not enough time to do that, Ed.
I know, and man, honestly, this is the stuff that heals us too, because
Sure.
every time you have to say to somebody um, something authentic, real, or you're going to say something somebody's absolutely not going to like or be angry with or push you away. Yeah, those are extremely difficult moments. And I've been doing this for a minute, and I still feel that when somebody pushes me away or doesn't like, what I'm
Sure,
telling them.
sure. Totally, totally.
And yet that's the very thing that still helps me grow every time. It gives me the opportunity to step away from that interaction and go, wow, that really hurt. That really brought up feelings of rejection or abandonment or not being good enough, all these core things that people feel.
Yep.
And then being able to say, all right, well, what do I need right now? And it might be just to really sit for a moment with it and then have a little cry come out or a big ugly cry, whatever it is. And then that comes out. And once that comes out, you rise back up again and you
Yeah.
go, all right, why did I even care so much about what that person thought? You know?
I remember the very first time I read a negative comment in a podcast episode that I posted. And I thought I put in
Um,
a lot of work. I thought I nailed it, hit it out of the park. Life was great. And that negative comment was like, what? Like, right? And so, but I think it lines to what you're talking about, man. It's you're not going to be for everybody. Not everyone's going to think you're wonderful. As much as you might think that you're at your best, you may not be, and you just got to accept that, right, and move on. So.
I appreciate that story. And, it's interesting, even when you share that story, that small sliver that you shared, I saw so much behind that, because like, how many days did you sit and ruminate and go, I got to stop thinking about this? And you're like, but they said, oh my God, like
How do
how
you do
much?
that? This is a great episode. It was great that other
Yeah,
people liked it. What's wrong with that? Like that's literally the process you go. And so you talk about the thoughts that you go down like that rabbit
yeah,
hole, and
yeah, yeah.
your mind goes, oh, yeah, it's exactly it. And so yeah, I can relate. Is what I'm
That
saying.
was like a rocket launcher in your life, like pulling out shrapnel for like a month on
Oh
that.
my
Like, I get
gosh!
it.
Oh my gosh!
I
That's
get
right.
it.
That's right. That's
I,
right.
I get it. I feel you, man.
But what happens though, and even an illustration, what happens is, and something that myself, what I oftentimes will do is I very much subscribe to the theory or the notion of celebrating your wins, right? And so
Mm.
when stuff happens, like you get this negative comment that you don't like, and like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm like, okay, fine. I've done 500 episodes. Cool. And now, I've got lots of, if I want to go back and see what, all the great things people have said, I can do that, right? And so it's very much, it helps you keep things in perspective when you look at where you're great, and not just to, blow your head up, but just really helps ground you in terms of taking the good with the bad, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And first, congratulations on that. You said 500?
We are there. We're knocking on the doorstep, man.
Man, 500 episodes. So that tells me a lot right there just about your journey. How much just in your own personal life, how much you've had to overcome
Sure.
to get your equipment, sit down, do all this stuff, show up every time vulnerably, not know exactly what each interview is going to look like, wild card stuff that's had to happen, how you've had to adjust. I mean, there's so much. That's a book right there that could be written on how many emotions, how many times you've been like, why am I doing this?
That's right.
Like that's beautiful, man. I mean, truly, I celebrate that
Thank
for
you.
you. That's
Thank you.
that's
No,
that's amazing.
I
That's
think what's
amazing.
thank you. I think what's happened over time is that I really start to recognize the significance of that achievement. And look, it's really easy to kind of overlook it a little sometimes because you're in the trenches and your head's down and you're just motoring along. And quite honestly, if I stop and think about it, like I can vaguely remember what 300 felt like. But for the last 200 episodes, I got no clue. I was had my head down, was motoring away, right? And so I think it's good that you pop up every so often and sort of take a look around and go, oh, wait, yeah, I am doing something kind of cool here, and then go back to work. But it's important to check yourself in that regard.
I mean, that's beautiful too. There's a thought that this came to me years ago, but when I
Okay.
was at the beginning of the episode where I told you when I was in the worst place of my life,
Hmm.
I've thought to myself this interesting thought before. If someone came to me in my worst place in my life and said, look into the future at your future self, the me that's right now, and said, what would you trade right now to be in future you's place if you knew that you wouldn't feel like this anymore? You wouldn't grow anymore. You wouldn't become any wiser. You'd have the same whatever issues or fears or anxieties,
Yeah.
but you'd be this future person with all of this resiliency. Would you trade that right now? And past me would have been like 100%, would have been
Right.
happy with that.
Right.
And so there's a point where we have to look at our lives, and I'm not trying to act like I am by any means, because I still like whip myself to move forward in ways and have to
Sure.
watch what I'm doing all the time, right? I'm human. However, we have to take that look back at the past to say, if I was where I was at my worst place and I'm at myself now, can I accept that if, let's say, I never grow any more than I grow right now, this is the most conscious I'll ever be and the most empowered I'll ever be. Can that be enough? Can that be enough for me?
Right.
Like for me, I'm going to keep pushing. Like I'm not going to ever just like throw up and be like, nope, I'm done. It's
No.
Netflix 24/7 now. Like I'm not done, man. I'm still climbing the staircase, even though it terrifies me some moments, right?
Yeah.
However, when can we learn to start being a bit more grateful for where we are at truly and recognize that, like, wow, this is where I was at before? Like you, 500 episodes. Who were you 500
Oh
episodes
gosh.
ago?
Listen,
Right?
my friends and family and loved ones, they can always tell I'm in podcast mode because I'll run back with this new insight. Hey, I was just talking to so and so and so, and we do this, we talked about this, what about that? And they're like, okay. And so, imagine that 500 times, right? They're like, okay, thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
kind of thing, right? And so,
yeah.
but to the point, I'm facetious about this, but the point though is that it opens out that room for continuous learning and growth and development. So similar as when you ask that question, do I have enough now? No, like there's so much out there I know nothing about and I can learn about. And what happens too is what we oftentimes forget is knowledge builds on itself, right?
Mm.
So, before you can add numbers together, you need to know how to count from 1 to 10 to understand the relationship of numbers and one another. And then you can add, and then you can subtract, then you can multiply and divide and builds and builds and builds and builds. Well, this is the same thing as we're acquiring knowledge. You can learn something and you go, okay, a second, I understand this to be a certain way. And now I add this, and now it's this, it's a new element to it. And then the other thing I will touch on, and then I'll stop here, is I truly, truly believe. I heard someone say this once, and I really believe this to be true. Is that each and every single one of us, there is something out there that we believe wholeheartedly to be factually true that we're wrong about. We all have something that we believe to be factually true that we're wrong about. And why I think that that's significant is that it really forces us to be humble And humility is key in all that we're talking about. Humility is a key aspect of this, because if you remain humble and you remain curious and inquisitive, that allows the opening for growth and learning and knowledge to come to you. And so,
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The moment that we say, no, I understand this, I know this, it stops learning immediately. You
yeah,
can no longer learn a single thing because you know already, even if it's untrue. And that
yeah,
really stunts us. So it's great to have an open mind to say, this is what I think is true, but I'm open to being proven wrong about this,
sure, sure,
you
sure,
know?
sure. From the context of emotional and spiritual healing, I'd love to hear, what does living audaciously mean to you?
For me,
Yeah.
it's just living an authentic life. It's living authentic. It's living real. It's living honest, even when it feels easier not to be.
Mm,
To say something, even though I know this is gonna probably not land well with this person. However, if I hold this in, I'm gonna feel worse. And that person gets to walk away with a part of me that I didn't want to give. So
yeah.
peace is more important to me in my own life, and being real and radical and radically honest is as much as I know how to be at this point in my life, and just being real. I wouldn't have my wife today and I wouldn't have the relationship I had today if all that time ago I would have said, "Oh, you're right, maybe I'm being too emotional right now. Let me stuff it up and be more of
Sure.
a man that doesn't feel, you know." I wouldn't have the amazing relationship I have now, and gotten the chance to teach her how to be more authentic and real, and watch her open up like a flower, and watch these polarities dance together with
Yes, yeah.
healthy
Beautiful.
masculine and healthy femininity. So
Beautiful.
we are rewarded for it, even if in a moment it feels like we're slapped across the face from being who we are. It builds a resiliency that you can't buy, that you can't fake.
And what you touched on earlier with, from the healing component, like, you've got to be honest with yourself. And if you're not being honest, you're not being authentic, you're not being open, then you can never properly heal to the degree that we need to. And so I love your point around authenticity. Donnie, this has really been a phenomenal chat. I've just loved the insights that you've shared with us today,
Well, thank you.
the sort of the practical approaches that you describe for individuals. And I think what I love about that is that they're practical, they're easy to understand, digestible. I think any sort of healing that needs to be undergone, it needs to be simple to understand. And it's something that we could do now. I don't got to take a course or get a PhD in something to figure out what I need to do for myself. And so thank you for doing
Exactly.
that. Congratulations on your own personal journey, and
Hey,
in terms of what
thank
you've
you, my
done for
friend.
yourself. Because I think that we don't want to, it's easy to lose sight of the work that's done to get us to where we're at. And, I've always said the people who are most the ones that have got the offer the most to others in terms of growth and healing and development, they've gone through their own challenge as well to get to that point, to be able to help others, and so they know better than anyone else what that means. And so, and that's why I congratulate that journey. And I want to thank you for being a guest today on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's been a blast talking to you. You're really easy to talk to, and you've got a great show, and congrats on all your success.
Well, thank you. For listeners that want to connect with you, learn more about your work, where can we send them, Donnie?
So my website is beyondlimitscoaching.life. It's not a .com. It's
Okay.
beyondlimitscoaching.life.
Cool. And what we'll do, we'll make sure that's in the show notes below, so just to connect with you directly. Donnie, this has been phenomenal. I appreciate the time, and congratulations. All the best, my friend.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Back, we are here on the podcast, and I gotta say, it was a super inspiring conversation with Donnie. So loved it so much. I think about one of the biggest takeaways for me was when Donnie's perspective, when he offered up his perspective on vulnerability, that it's not a weakness but a gateway to connection and strength. And when we embrace our authentic selves, we open the door to deeper relationships and a stronger sense of community. I also loved how Donnie emphasized emotional integration, and that's the idea that truly feeling emotions emotions is a critical part of healing, and that so resonated with me big time. So I'm really glad that he shared that. If you'd like to connect with Donnie or learn more about his work, check out the details in the show notes below. He's got a tremendous resource for anyone, walking their own healing journey. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to bring us back to the library of life analogy. Every experience, every chapter adds depth and meaning to your story. Embrace the chapters of vulnerability, support, authenticity, emotional integration, and self-awareness. Together, they create a powerful narrative of growth, courage, and resilience. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, and share with the others. If you haven't already done so, of course, this really helps us to spread this message of living audaciously. Until next time, keep turning the pages of your life with courage and authenticity. Stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness, be audacious.